All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to Talking Investing. The end of another week. A little bit of a rough week for Bitcoin miners. We'll talk about it. Super red day today. We got George here. Hello, George.
Drinks to everybody. Put the hard stuff in.
Yeah, I know you don't have the hard stuff in your glass. And I am drinking, we have no affiliation, but I'm drinking a LaCroix. We are not affiliated with them.
Woo. So, Tom, let's start right in with Riot because everybody hates Riot right now. So you were saying that they brought in they did the report today? They dropped the report or something like that?
Yesterday, they came. This is what Riot does, and it is a little bit frustrating. Most companies, they tell you when they're going to put their report out, right? And then they schedule a conference call, and then that's what they do. Riot, it just kind of drops. Boom. Yesterday they put out a press release going through and it's the year end. So, as of last night, I checked their website and there was no SEC filings. And then today the SEC filings were up. So the 10K was up today. And, I spent some time going through that so we can talk about that. Not a lot of surprises. I put a little schedule together about the thing that I keep my eye on most closely as it pertains to Riot. But,
all right, welcome to Talking Investing.
There was nothing shocking in there. They did adopt the new FASB rule. So they had a massive gain on that. And, that's the massive gain's a one time only, right? To switch from the old rules to the new rules now. But you get to, with the new rules, as Bitcoin goes up, you get to continue to recognize those gains, unlike how it's worked from the beginning of time until now. So I think they got $184 million pickup in the quarter, and the year ended December 31st, 2023. With all that, they still were not positive GAAP earnings. That was not a surprise to me. I don't think that should have been a surprise to anybody. So we'll dig deeper into the numbers. I don't think they got, let's see. Riot was down 5.59% today. Marathon actually did pretty well today. I put out a Marathon video this morning. If you guys later on, don't leave us now, but later on you can check that out. I went through what's going on with Marathon. They got some production issues going on that I went through. In addition to that, they're going to do earnings next week. So again, that's going to be their year-end earnings. So we'll look forward to that. And, Riot got to pick up $184 million on this change in accounting rules. And that's nothing compared to...
And they still didn't make any money?
They still... From GAAP, they didn't make any money. Oh. They had, EBITDA, they were positive. They made money, but their depreciation number is overwhelming. I'd like to get a look at exactly how they're depreciating things. They had $252 million of depreciation in 2023. So it's very hard to make money. That rivals their top line. Right, their revenue. So, that makes it tough, from GAAP purposes to be, profitable. They do need to, all these companies need to get profitable, right? We're not going to go on forever with these companies losing money from GAAP purposes. They are getting cash flow positive, and I think that's crucial. What's the matter?
You guys are killing me, man. I did just Google it. Sorry, keep going.
First of all, let's get the chart up. We got
now you guys are making me go on a diet.
Oh boy.
They said I look like Uncle Vito. They remind of Uncle Vito, whoever that is.
I don't know who that is.
Vito, the guy, Vito.
Vito. All right, while we're at it, our normal request, please smash the like button. It does help the stream out in real time in a big way. This was a tough week for Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners. So let's see if we can smash the like button, get some likes going. We're at 24 likes. We're shooting for 500, so we're pretty far away right now. We need to get the retail investors in here on this stream because retail is losing faith. I can see it. I can feel it. I can tell on the channel. We can tell by some of the numbers that we're looking at, despite the fact that JP Morgan came out and said, well, retail is the reason for this recent, crypto bull run. As usual, I think you just take what they say and invert it. So I can see retail losing interest right now, big time. I think they're losing interest as a result. I think they're doing the same old thing, buying high, selling low. I know, most of the people here are most likely not doing that. You guys are typically the ones that, have been in this for the longest and are paying closer attention and not getting tricked so easily. But they're putting a lot of stuff out, right, to try to scare. They continue to scare people. But do not be afraid. That's what I would say.
Why do you think that Bitcoin has stayed in this range?
Let me go to the 1 day. I'm going to zoom out. I will tell you, I think this is extremely typical, and we are unbelievably overbought. This bull run has been vicious, and here's where we get lulled. Everything moves in hyper speed. And that's a general statement for all of society, right? We're moving, for those of you, and I know our audience skews a little bit older. We're not the young, we're not the 20-somethings for the most part, although if you are, welcome. Glad you're here, and tell your friends. But society just moves so much faster. Everybody's attention span is so much shorter. We have had a gigantic, the last 15 months, Bitcoin's gone up in, virtually a straight line. And, one of our mantras is nothing goes up in a straight line. And it's like for 15 months, Bitcoin's almost been proving me wrong. So, every once in a while, we get a little bit of a cool off. And these cool offs can be anywhere from 2 weeks to 2 months. 2 months of sideways consolidation or even potentially a 20% pullback is a very, very small move, historically speaking, for Bitcoin. And we're up over 200% in the last 15 months on Bitcoin. I think about 230%. Well, this is, you just summed up retail investors, right? They don't care we're up 230% in 15 months. They don't care we just had a massive, let's go to the 1 day. Look at this run. This is 1 month ago. Today's the 23rd. This is 1 month ago. Right, we're up 32% right now. Now we have 3 red candles in a row. They have not left our sideways range, so this might feel bearish. And there's some other things looking like maybe the next super short-term move might be down. But look, we're up 32% in 1 month. That's a gigantic month, particularly since, if I go like this, that's doing it. This was, sorry. That's only a teeny bit. See, even you got to zoom all. Holy cow.
What are you doing?
I wasn't zoomed out far enough. This is the bottom. Right, this is November. So, from late November of 2022, that's a bull market. We just keep going up and up and up. And so, sometimes if you had gotten discouraged let me go back to this. Here was a couple of months where we were sideways. If you got discouraged, you would have stopped yourself out at, between 25 and 28,000. And then here we went sideways again. And again, you would have stopped yourself out maybe at 25,000. Then, okay, the next time we went sideways, we ran up massively between 41 to 44,000. That seemed like it was going to last forever. Well, it did not last forever. And the first time we had a daily candle break out of this, we had a fake out in each direction. But when we broke out, we had a gigantic move to the upside. And here we are again in, let me get rid of all this nonsense and zoom back in. We are in a tight range. So, you know, this line here at 44,200, this was pretty strong resistance for a little while. This started really on December 5th. We did have a fake out when the ETFs got announced in the 2 or 3 days before and the day of. It looked like we were going to break out. This was a fake out. We went back into this range. Then all of a sudden it looked like the bottom was going to fall out. That was a fake out. We went right back into this range. So from December 5th until February 7th, that's 2 months of sideways activity. But then, bam, big move to the upside. So we're doing a little bit of consolidation right now. And my fear is that everybody is going to lose interest, is going to bail out. And what happens after all of these, right? We're 15 months into every time we have one of these sideways consolidations, we get a giant move to the upside. And we're just less than 2 months away from the halving. Here's what I'm afraid of. Here's what I feel like is going to happen. Everybody do us a favor before I say that thought. If you could please smash the like button. We're only at 47 likes, so it is much appreciated. It helps massively. It helps the live stream. So what I'm afraid of, and I think this is what tends to happen, everybody's going to bail here at 50 or 51 or 52, right? And let's say we pull back to 48 or whatever the case may be. And I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. But next thing you know, we're going to be at 69,000 at our all-time high. Then all of a sudden, all the people that bailed out at 48, they're going to jump back in at 69 or 70. And they'll still get some run probably from there, right? Because I think we're going to go a lot higher than that in the long run. But, you know, are we trying to time this thing, or, you know, or do we have, or do we think the fundamentals of Bitcoin and where we are in the 4-year cycle, and plus the catalysts that have occurred, and we're still early stages on some of those, and the halving is still ahead of us. That's typically always been the main catalyst for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency.
The halving?
The halving, yes. So, you know, if not for the fact that we just had the ETFs, and they even tried to, you know, scare us yesterday. You know, one chart showed a little bit of outflow. Another chart showed, you know, a little bit of inflow, but we were pretty much break even yesterday, and it's been a long time. We've only had these things for like 5 or 6 weeks, but, you know, it had been several weeks since we had a day of outflow. So yesterday was a tiny little bit of outflow. And then all of a sudden, you know, I saw everywhere, you know, the ETF run is over. They've run out of steam. They've run out of juice. Somebody put out a whole article. Bitcoin's lost its correlation to the flows of the Bitcoin ETFs. And it's like, how you do not have enough data to create a sample group to say whether or not we've lost our correlation. We're just a few weeks into this. So talk to me over time. Cleanspark to 100. Thank you very much for this super chat. I think everyone had expectations of 55K plus after breaking 50.
I did.
Stay strong. We've made it this far. Added Bitfarms today at $3. See, and so thank you again, Cleanspark to 100. Right, Bitfarms went down to $3. It felt like forever that 3 was resistance. We've broken above it, and now we've got some support at $3 for Bitfarms. So I think the price action, I know today was red, and this was not the best week for Bitcoin miners that we've ever had, and Bitcoin was basically sideways.
Stay with me on Bitfarms real quick.
Yes.
What do you think a realistic number is at the end of the year for Bitfarms? Are they going to expand a lot? Are they going to?
What are they going to do? They have massive growth plans. They are expecting to get to 17 exahash. So first, it's important to know. Let's take a look, because we've got, without any point of reference, that doesn't mean anything. Yes. So if I look at everybody's hash rate as of January 31st, Bitfarms was at 6.5 exahash. They are expecting to get to, the first thing they're going to do in the first half of 2024, and shortly, they're expecting to get to 12 exahash. And by the way, they're going to go from 6.5 to 12, which is basically a double. And in the process, they're going to swap out the majority of their machines. So they're going to go from an aging 6.5, an aging fleet of 6.5 exahash to a brand new fleet of 12 exahash, and they already have purchase orders and delivery dates to get to 17 exahash. They do have some plans they've talked about past that to get to 21, but for the moment, let's just say they go from 6.5 to 17. That's not quite a triple, but that's well ahead of the curve. And it's updating their fleet to pretty much, most of those are the T21s, but the 21s are the latest and greatest. So, the Bitfarms is, I expect they're going to move up this list considerably. I think they're a top 5 Bitcoin miner. They're right now at January 31st by exahash, they're in 9th place. I think they're really a top 5 Bitcoin miner in my opinion. And I think that's
6.
You think they're top 6?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. 5. It's funny. It gets really competitive after 4.
That's right. I mean? You've got Marathon, Core Scientific, CleanSpark, and Riot that have plans to get to even much bigger places than that. And we'll see, right? Those are at the moment, a lot of those plans are still on the drawing board, as are Bitfarms. But the next closest growth plans are Bitfarms, right? If everybody does what they say they're going to do, then Bitfarms will be solidly in 5th place.
Right.
But, of course, we need to see, we can't just assume everybody's going to do what they say they're going to do. And we only have the last few years of history as an example to know that everybody doesn't always meet their goals when they say they're going to meet them or necessarily at all. So, having said that, a lot of people have done an excellent job of meeting their goals and staying on track and delivering either at or near, the timeframes that they talked about delivering and staying on track. CleanSpark has been a phenomenal example of, this chart shows them at January 31st at 10.1 exahash. Well, they're already at 14 exahash right now. So that was very important. And that was actually a little bit later for, 4 or 5 months before the end of the year. They were hoping to get that exahash online at December 31st. Took until about the middle of February. So a little bit late, but importantly, prior to the halving, because they are banking basically all of the Bitcoin that they mine between now and the halving. CleanSpark has dedicated themselves to doing that. Hive has dedicated themselves to doing that. Riot's been banking a lot of Bitcoin. Marathon's been banking a lot of Bitcoin. And Cypher put the most Bitcoin in 1 month that they've ever put away. So, there's a lot of companies trying to get as many Bitcoin as they can on their balance sheet right now, which makes sense to me. I think that it's crazy not to go. If I was running one of these companies, I'd, within the parameters of not damaging any of the machines, I would overclock every machine I had and mine every Bitcoin I possibly could between now and the halving, because at the highest energy price, at the least efficient your fleet could be, is going to be better than it is the day after the halving, and it's not even close. So you might as well max out what you're doing right now.
Max it out, huh?
Because then they're going to be in the opposite mode, right? After the halving, especially in the months after the halving, right? Ultimately, we hope, as in the past, that Bitcoin's price action makes up for that reduction in the reward at the halving. But it doesn't make up for it the next day or the next month. That could take 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. So for that window of time, a lot of these Bitcoin miners are going to have to be in the opposite mode. They're going to have to be extremely efficient and, keep their energy costs down so that they're cash flow positive and, mainly cash flow positive. And I mean all the way cash flow positive, generating gross profit from their Bitcoin in excess of their overhead so that they are net cash flow positive. The companies that don't do that, and that, any company that is starting to issue shares of stock just to pay for operating expenses, that's going to be viewed very negatively. But a lot of these companies have set themselves up that if they do that, they put themselves in a position to not have to do that. And we've seen a lot of them really make massive, massive moves to do that. And a lot of those they're in the middle of implementing. So that's why it's going to be important. Those companies that stay on track and do what they said they were going to do are going to be the most successful, operationally and from a stock standpoint. Sorry, George, you were saying?
This seems like the dog days of halvings. You know how they call it the dog days of halving?
I think that's 100% right. I think that's exactly where we are. We got a couple of months here where Bitcoin has ran like the wind for over a year. We're up a couple of 100%. And now, I don't know. Are we sideways for a couple of months? And it could last beyond that. We don't know when that parabolic move starts. So
do you think there's going to be a parabolic move?
I do.
10%, like a jump of 10%.
No, I'm saying I'm not worried about any one day. I think we're going to have the type of parabolic move where from where we are right now, Bitcoin's going to double, triple, quadruple. Yeah, I know a lot of people are not thinking a quadruple from here. I think that's inside of the range of what I'm expecting. I'm more expecting about a triple at least from here. And it's early, it's premature. We have to see how a lot of things play out, right? Every cycle, one of the theories is, well, each cycle's been less than the last one. Well, that's true by some measures, but by some other ones, not necessarily so. And this cycle has some catalysts. Bitcoin's in a very different place, and I would still submit to you, we haven't even begun to get the supply crunch that's going to happen when these ETFs get where they're going. We're at we're in the first out in the first inning on these ETFs. That's my opinion. Papa D, thanks for the super chat. Off subject, check out CPOP.
Called CPOP.
CPOP.
Pop. Are you drinking some pop over there, Tom?
It depends where you're from. Well, I guess this isn't pop anywhere. This is sparkling water, but where we grew up, it was called pop.
Is it soda?
Soda. Soda pop.
So basically, with the top 5 miners where they are right now, where do you think they'll be at the end of the year? You think they're going to be a double, a triple, quadruple, 5, 7, 20, 40?
I would be careful about overinflating expectations between now and the end of the year, because I'm thinking more towards the end of the cycle.
Okay.
I am very bullish on the Bitcoin miners that I think are going to be winners. And again, to repeat myself, I do think there will be winners and losers. And I have a top 5 really that I have the very highest level of conviction on, and really a top 4. But I do think there will be several others that do very well. But I think, if you set your expectation at a double, it could be a triple. And that's not going to be the end of the run, because then we have 2025. So I think somewhere mid 2025 is when you're going to see the Bitcoin miners, the ones that are getting where they're going, maybe they're going to start to get to a point where they're topping out. And, for me, that's when I'm expecting to have some of my exit strategy start to kick in. So, but we will see. Things could go faster than expected. And, I have not started getting out of these stocks, but, if things move faster than expected, I will adjust my plans, right? If these stocks run out a lot further, a lot faster, like, by the way, CleanSpark is so far ahead of the rest of the pack as far as its stock performance goes. It's not even close. CleanSpark is approaching its highs from the previous cycle. So, I have one chart that measures everybody's high from November of 2021 when Bitcoin hit 69,000, and CleanSpark's getting pretty close to that number. It got just a couple of dollars away from that, we'll take a look at some of those charts and just show how much further ahead CleanSpark is than the rest of them. So I'm probably going to start to have my exit strategy kick in a lot earlier on CleanSpark maybe than a lot of the other Bitcoin miners if this continues. Papa D, sorry, I'll get to CPOP right now. Thank you for the super chat. Let's see what CPOP's all about.
Before you do that, I have another question. But I mean, you can go pull up CPOP. You do whatever you want, Tom.
No, yeah, ask away.
What is this? Crypto Fever just said something about Slipstream announcement for MARTA. You know what that is?
I do. I'll get to the Slipstream.
Okay.
And
I have no idea what that is. But here's my problem, and I'm almost thinking we need to interview somebody at Coinbase, by the way.
Okay.
Because I was reading an article on Twitter about Jack Dorsey has expanded his holdings to almost 9,000 BTC.
Personally?
I don't know. It's some company he started.
Yeah, probably, he's at Block, no?
Huh? I don't know where. Yeah. But I mean, so
Square?
My question is, I want to know from Coinbase, how do they account for the flux of purchases of Bitcoin? How do they determine if they have enough Bitcoin or not? You see what I'm saying? Do they do an accounting at the end of the day? Well, do they do a range? How do they do that?
They have a significant amount of Bitcoin in excess, right. But at some point, this is a fair question. At some point, is there going to be a supply constraint? They're not close to that point yet, but they could get to a point where
I think we're already there, personally.
Well, they show you they're not close to that yet, but it is the lowest amount they've ever had, and to your point, that could very well happen. Where, they don't have the next Bitcoin and they're looking for it. So, I got to believe they've got not just one person, but, a desk or a room full of people making sure that.
No, but isn't that an interesting question, though?
Yeah. So you're saying with the exchanges, how do they make sure they got enough liquidity with what they're trading in? And obviously Bitcoin is the big one by far.
Because there's really no data, or there's no rules. I mean, I understand there's SEC rules and stuff like that, but is there? I mean, would you say that? I mean, only when they have to do their accounting. So, like, are they taking it for an average for the month, average for the week, average for the day? See what I'm saying?
Well, when they report?
Let's say, for an example, we all got together and we all bought. Each one of us bought one more Bitcoin, right?
We'll get back to CPOP. I just want to leave the chart up.
So we have 200. So let's say we ended up buying 2,000 Bitcoin. And they only sold 1,500, but they have 2,000 sitting in their reserves for, the other people that own them. See what I mean?
Well, there's two different things. They have full reserves. If the Bitcoin that is held by people is in their custody, but it's not their Bitcoin. They have a supply of Bitcoin in excess of that so that they can trade and have a flow without having to go out and get Bitcoin. So there's two separate numbers. And then if you count really, they're the custodians for almost every single one of the ETFs. So those are all totally separate. That's not their on-chain liquidity. That's the number we got to be looking at. What's their on-chain liquidity?
So this is a great example. Crypto Fever said, George, you forget that every single BTC on-chain can be tracked. I don't think that's the case with exchanges. Am I wrong?
Yes.
Okay.
Their stuff is on-chain.
Right, to their wallet, not to my wallet. This is the whole point that I'm trying. So I use their exchange to buy my coin. This is my whole point of not your keys, not your wallet, not your keys, not your coin. And it goes to their wallet. It doesn't go to George's wallet.
Let's be clear about because you're saying something different now. What you're worried about is that they are not proper custodians. Bingo. And they are not storing people's
Correct.
cryptocurrency? That is your
Correct.
question. So,
That
I
is
mean,
my question, and I want to see if we can get with Coinbase and ask them that.
well, I mean, there's no point in asking them. It would be fraud and they'd all go to jail if they're not doing that. But so
But
they're
no, that's
certainly
not
not
true,
going to
Tom.
yes, it
That's
is.
not. Let me. Can I finish? Can I
Go.
finish?
Rock and roll.
So let's say, for an example, they had an influx of an extra 1,000 coins. They might not have to put that pressure on until they bash out the day and do that at 9 o'clock at night. There's no fraudulent activity there. So they might say, go ahead.
That's their inflow of Bitcoin that they own. If you own Bitcoin and it's your Bitcoin, they are just a custodian
Correct.
of your Bitcoin. And if they touch that, that's not allowed. And they are a publicly traded company under the auspices of the SEC. So
but
they are looking.
How would we be able to track that? So if you sold, I bought, and it's such, you see what I mean? There has to be a settlement period.
There's a float of their own coins where they can do those transactions.
So they sit on so many coins.
Right. They have thousands and tens of thousands of their own coins. In addition, that's what I'm saying. That's their supply. If they run out of their own liquidity, they can't count they can't count your coin or anybody's that's on the stream's coin or any of the ETF coins. That's not a part of their supply. They are just custodians of that. The coins that they show.
So does it say then that their custodial accounts have this many Bitcoin?
You're saying, is there a place that you can go?
Yes.
See, Crypto Fever saying it's public on-chain data. I've never gone to look. I will tell you, and it's an assumption I make, and if you guys want to think that I'm wrong to think so, any publicly traded company that is, they're publicly traded, so you've got the SEC looking, and you got, all a Big Four accounting firm looking. I don't assume fraud's on the table. Now, you could be wrong once in a generation.
I'm not saying you're using this big word fraud. I'm not using this big word fraud. I'm just saying that their settlement period might be different than what you're thinking. I don't think it's real time. I think there's a period of time that they have to catch up. You know what I mean? Maybe it's the end of the day, maybe it's the following day, but there's always some type of float. That's how banks do it. Why would it be any different? We can drop this, but I'm just curious. You know what I mean?
Yes, and banks do have banks have very different rules. So, that's actually a much more valid question with a bank. They don't have the cash on hand that's represented in your bank account, and they're not required to. So, that's a fair statement, which can lead to a run on the bank.
Right. And because the big problem that we have right now with banks is the liquidity of them.
These regional banks, that's right. These regional banks, the ones that have failed and the ones that people are worried about, is this exact issue that you're talking about. They don't have enough liquidity that if, depositors come and make a run on the bank, they're going to run out of money. And a lot of it has to do with money held up in long-term treasuries that they're going to lose a lot of money on if they have to sell. And they've put themselves, not all of them, there's a list that people are worried about that, are in potential trouble. So I don't know. I mean,
we can drop this, but at some point in time, remember this conversation, guys. Just going to tell you that. We can go on.
George is on record, but you want to have a concluding thought so that, you're not left hanging. Let's get your,
go ahead.
what's your, I'm going to leave it to you because we kind of went back and forth, but I know you want to bring a point across.
I'm just saying, to me, it just doesn't seem like the price of Bitcoin moves properly.
You want to know what's funny, George? Edmund's yelling at me to drop it.
Oh, Tom dropped it. Do you see what I mean? It just seems like there's been such a demand for Bitcoin the last few weeks that it just doesn't seem like the actual demand has been shown in the price. And if that is not the case, then somebody is definitely controlling the price of Bitcoin. That's my whole point of all this.
Well, You know, that's a separate issue.
Right.
Who's pushing
Whoever that
Bitcoin
is, I
around?
don't know who that is. I don't, you know what I mean? These aren't my friends. Somebody bought 26,000 Bitcoins for 1.3 billion. Wow. That wasn't me, guys.
Doug wants a poll.
Oh,
George, you're the
Todd.
poll master.
I'm going. I just turned that one off.
New all-time high at the halving or within 30 days after. 60% still feel that the answer to that is yes. So almost 60-40, 60-39 this says, but so we still have an optimistic crowd despite a little bit of sideways activity over the course of what is a week now, and a little bit of downward activity on the Bitcoin miners, which had a nice run right before that. We're at 94 likes. Sorry to interrupt, George. If everybody could smash the like button, let's get to 100, and then let's get to 500.
And that Mark, that's my point. If Genesis is dumping 30,000 Bitcoins, they need to dump 30,000 Bitcoins. They need to dump them all at once and get it over with.
Well, they're not going to do that, and you can see, and also it's important to remember what Genesis is going to do is sell shares of the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, and as they sell those shares, Grayscale is going to have to put their Bitcoin onto the market. And I do have, yesterday was a weird day. So this is the flow by day. So you'll see we had this one day where we went red, and this was Wednesday. And I will tell you, everybody just lost their mind. Oh, we went red on Wednesday. The ETFs are over. And, you know, here's Thursday plus $251 million. What was weird to me is you had seen since the court ruled that Gemini, right? Genesis, Gemini, I always get those all confused. Anyway, since the court ruled that they were allowed to sell here, Genesis cleared to sell Grayscale shares valued at $1.6 billion. So whether it's 30,000, 32,000, however many Bitcoin this is, they, as of February 14th, they were clear to sell. So you can see immediately on February 14th, the Grayscale outflow picked up 131 million, 174 million, right? It had been under 100 million most of the last week or week and a half. 150 million. This was a day off, no trading. 137 million. Yesterday, or 2 days ago, it peaked at 199 million. And then yesterday, strangely, only 55 million, which means that Gemini, I already forgot from the 5 seconds ago that I just checked their name. Genesis, sorry, for whatever reason, slowed down yesterday. So I don't know if this is going to take 15, 20, 30, 50 trading days. This will put a little bit of selling pressure on, but I do think the market's more than ready to absorb this selling pressure. So is that one of the things keeping Bitcoin sideways? You know, that could be a part of it, right? We're pretty much, since that announcement came out, Bitcoin's been hovering sideways in a pretty super tight range between about 50,600 and 52,000. That's a very small range. Papa D said, OMG, George, you're confusing all of us. Stop it, LOL.
I mean, to me, there's just something wrong here with the price action of Bitcoin. There should be swings, guys. There should be 3%, 4%, 5% swings. It should not say steady all the time. I don't care what anybody says. I'm the biggest idiot in the room. I don't care. But there's no way, because I can tell you when they buy it and when they sell it. And we got 5 minutes to go, and someone's getting ready to buy a whole bunch of Bitcoin. It happens almost daily.
Oh, the 5 o'clock push.
Yeah, 5 o'clock push. Here it comes.
Yeah, there seems to be certain times a day where we get, and certain times, I don't know if it's going to be a push or a pull, but it's that time of day, something happens one way or the other. And your 5 o'clock push has been on the money lately.
I know. I'm telling you, it was the funniest thing that guy said it, and I was just like, okay, I'll believe you.
I'm gonna close out here on Papa D's request.
CPOP.
For CPOP, Pop Culture Group. This is a nano cap stock. We're talking about a $9 million market cap. So I'm just going to do the quick dive to let everybody know. So But
Have you
however,
ever looked at this company before?
I've never heard of this company. I've never looked at this company. But apparently others have, because at $3.74, they average 2.5 million shares a day. That's some serious volume for a $9 million company. So this is probably a pretty popular stock that, for whatever reason, I don't know about. I haven't followed it. I don't know anything about it. I'll quickly let people know what this is at Papa D's request. Pop Culture Group hosts entertainment events to corporate clients in China. The company hosts concerts and hip-hop related events, including stage plays, dance competitor. So is this okay? So this is actually a Chinese company. They are located in China. So I know for a lot of you that will raise some red flags just as far as risk. So this is a super small cap. It is a Chinese company.
K-pop. It's K-pop. It's just called C-pop.
C-pop's K-pop?
Yep.
But K-pop's Korea. No?
Well, I mean, it's all the same, isn't it?
It's not all the same. Korea's
I won't
Korea.
say nothing else. I'll
China's
get myself in trouble.
China.
It's all the same. It's just Asians over there, Asian people. Is that acceptable? I don't know. I'm sorry if it isn't.
I'm not familiar with this company, but I don't know. I mean, is this the who's the big dog over here in this space? I'm forgetting their name right now, but they
Alibaba.
The concert venue that they dominate the whole thing. They've got a practical monopoly over here. I'm blanking their name out.
In the United States?
Yeah, Ticketmaster.
Oh,
right. Is this the Ticketmaster, a small startup type Ticketmaster thing?
Maybe I thought they were a venue.
Well, maybe you think this is just a particular venue. Oh, that could be. All right, well, I'll let people look this up. I put it on everybody's radar.
Go back 6 months, Papa D said.
Oh. So this got a pop for some reason.
It got a C-pop.
It got a C-pop. Now it's been cut, not quite in half, but so this could be a trader stock. This is one of those where I don't know if this was on earnings or who knows what. You could see a monumental volume spike. I'll just do one more quick thing on this. If we look at the historical data, yeah, you can see 1 million, 16 million, 21 million, 70 million, 43 million. But you go back, this used to be pretty much an illiquid stock for a long time. And every once in a while, you get these outliers. So I would say be careful. This could be something.
See what institutions hold it, can you?
All right. Absolutely. I'm going to guess none.
No, maybe someone's just screwing around with it.
Literally none. 0.0% held by institutions.
None.
So this is a small cap. It was down 43% today. Ouch.
Holy smokes. They drove it up.
Everybody, I always tell everybody to be careful that the Bitcoin miners are extremely volatile. That's some major league small cap stuff.
I have a question. Do you have a poll in mind? Does NVIDIA mine Bitcoin? No.
NVIDIA does not mine Bitcoin. Their chips do not mine Bitcoin. I am going to talk some NVIDIA today. I have to tell you guys, because what they did was historic, unprecedented, and there's something going on in the market. And so I want to take a look at it. It's this is crazy time. And I do regret on a live stream, if you remember, George, when this thing was at, and this was just 6 weeks ago, it was at about $400. And I said, I just can't bring myself to buy it this high, but I really think it's a steal at this number. But by the same token, I feel like I might have missed the run, and now it's doubled. So once again, I'm going to say it again. Well, I think I missed the run. I'm not going to buy it, and watch it double again.
Tom, I bought one share.
I had an option. I didn't pull the trigger. I had an option, and it went up 299% in one day.
Oh my goodness. Did it really?
So it was something like it was. But the thing is, when you're trading options on a company that stock price is $700 or $800, it would have cost $2,100 to buy one option. But I could have sold it, I think, for 8,500 or 8,600, something like that. So I mean,
Oh my
it was
goodness.
right the next morning. So I could have, if I bought it at 3:55 at night and sold it at 9:35 in the morning, that's how much money I would have made on just one option. So that's the power of options, but it's also the risk, because had they missed, or even had they just not beaten by as much as people wanted them to beat by, all of a sudden, you got to. It was, that option expired today. So that was either going to be in the money and make a lot of money yesterday, or go straight to zero. So at the end of the day, I felt like I was just rolling the dice, which I don't usually do. And I didn't do it, but I did go back and look. I shouldn't have looked. It was up 299%.
Yeah, I agree. Bitfarms is copper, by the way, guys. It could be silver if they would move into the United States. Just spend the money, get an
All right.
office. Sorry.
Darren S., thank you very much for the super chat. This year already, Riot diluted 500,000 shares per day, $8 million per day, and we're not yet 2 months complete. So a lot of dilution.
They've been screwing me.
Well, by the same token, they have massive, massive growth plans. But the thing is, so they're on the hook. Right. They have options all the way up to 100. They have plans to get to 38 exahash by the end of 2025 is kind of what they're committing to. And remember, they're at 12.4 right now. So it's a long way from 12.4 to 38. They also, in addition to having to buy all those machines, remember, they owned their own. If they finish these facilities, their 2 facilities in Texas will be 2 of either the 2 largest facilities out of any Bitcoin mining, or maybe 2 of the top 3 largest in the world. So, that are just Bitcoin mining dedicated. Obviously, there's power facilities greatly in excess, but this next one they're building is, they've got 700 megawatt facility they're in right now, and they're building a gigawatt facility in Texas as we speak. So they've got the capacity to go well beyond even what they've purchase ordered. They have options to go to 100. I think that is nonsense, in my opinion. I just don't see any. And those options, I believe, expire December 31st, 2025. So I just can't see, unless Bitcoin runs to $300,000, or something like that beyond where we thought. I don't think they're going to do that. But if they get to 38, then this dilution is going to make sense. If they don't, and there's another thing they need to do. They can't just get to 38 exahash. They've got to start getting competitive with their efficiency, right? We need them to mine a similar amount of Bitcoin per exahash to their peers. Otherwise, all this exahash can't be counted on a one-to-one basis with their peers if they're not mining as much. And I'm not talking about the summer months where they curtail and get paid. They got $71 million of energy credits. And I know a lot of people discount that and say, that doesn't mean anything. That's a big, big deal. And they wouldn't have made anywhere near that money mining Bitcoin at that time. Now, your argument might be, when Bitcoin's at 180,000, they're going to be better off mining the Bitcoin than getting the energy credits. And that's probably true. So we'll see what the future holds on that. But they need to get more efficient. I'll go look at their efficiency. Darren S. added, but Riot machines go unused 50% of the time. So yeah, right to what I'm talking about. They really just don't. And I'm going to show the numbers. They just are less efficient than their peers. They just are. I keep expecting them. Yep.
Bob went drinking at 5. He's not going to be buying any Bitcoin, just so you guys know. Maybe he'll buy later, he said.
Oh, on our stream?
For the ETFs. He's like, I'm going drinking tonight. Sorry, guy. He'll be buying later.
Here we go. So you're going to see, and this was closer than in previous months, but still, this is just straight up number of Bitcoin mined in the month divided by the hash rate. And you're going to see Riot in January was down here at 48 in 10th place. Whereas companies like these 3 that you'll see in a lighter blue, I've highlighted because these 3 have been in the top 3 every single month of the year with one exception. Marathon had an oddball, once in a lifetime month in the month of December, and they jumped into first place. And, other than that, Bitfarms, Hive, Iris Energy, and then I would throw in CleanSpark. Those have been for extremely consistently in the top 4 from an efficiency standpoint. But you will see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Bitcoin miners that are very close in efficiency. And if Riot could get in this neighborhood, they don't have to be the leader in this. If they could get into this ballpark, if they could do what Marathon's doing, right? Marathon's, they're number 7, right, but they're just fine. They're not really that far behind number 1. But Riot is far behind, and Hut's even further behind. So BitDeer, Riot, and Hut, to me, they have some work to do. They've got to show that, they can do this. And the other two in this group, Riot, I hold out hope. I don't understand why they can't be more efficient. BitDeer and Hut have aging fleets. They have not yet made any announcement on updating those fleets. So I don't know how they're going to increase their efficiency. I think they need to give us a path to how they're going to compete with the rest of these guys. And I'm not saying they won't do it. I'm just saying they haven't told, if they're going to do it, they haven't told us how yet. And Riot needs to move more in the middle of this pack, particularly in the months where there's not a lot of curtailment, right? If they're lagging behind because they got $20 million in energy credits, well then, that accounts for some of this. But that's not what happened here in January. They're just lagging behind. That's one of the things I'd like to see Riot improve on.
The 2 things I forgot, Larry Jones, thanks for watching, and Sebastian, thanks for watching. We're all a community. We're all trying to help everybody make money. That's the reason for the channel. That's why we don't get upset when other people watch us, because we watch them too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you, guys. I didn't know those guys were here. Thank you very much for being here. I was watching Sebastian a little bit last night.
So here's my question, Tom.
Yes.
You got a poll?
You're the one who we handed the polls over to you. I can think of a poll if you want.
I can't think of any polls. Are we going to do best Bitcoin miner right now? I have a question. You used to always see this about when your companies dilute shares, that it's just a matter of time before they pop because they're diluting. I mean, great example, I guess, would be CleanSpark. Do you think that's going to be the case with Riot or no?
I think they need to. Yes, to your point. Let me just first quick say Papa D, and I don't believe him, but if this is true, Papa D, give a thumbs up or something. He said, I believe Gree will be the #1 miner after the halving. That feels like a joke. I don't want to assume anything. So, Papa D, let us know. I have them at my absolute last place out of all the Bitcoin miners. That's my personal opinion. I don't want to spread FUD about them, but that's just, when I look at what they're doing, I wish them the absolute best of luck. Let me just leave it at that.
And here's another thing, Tom. We've gotten stuck at 19,600. How can that be? It's been that way for like 2 weeks now.
Well, it's slowed down. We were at 19.3, 19.4, 19.5, 19.6. So, and George is talking about the number of subscribers. So, and I think this speaks to the fact that, this is what I'm saying. I see a little bit of enthusiasm waning with the Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining crowd. So I do think it will be back. I'll repeat, I'm worried for the people that leave in the middle here and miss it. Right. And I don't know. And that's why I don't try to time the market. But, and for those of you who time the market and time it well and you make money that way, congratulations. But for me, like, I don't know when the run starts. Obviously the run started 15 months ago first, but, we're in a little bit of sideways consolidation and interest does tend to wane when that happens. Back to your question about stock dilution, I think it's very important to look at these companies and see what they're doing with their dilution. And if they do what they say they're going to do, all of these companies have massive growth plans. Bitcoin mining companies are going to dilute, period. If they're going to succeed, I'll give you 2 reasons why. You will fail if you do not dilute as a Bitcoin miner. Number 1, the difficulty level has more than doubled in the last 15 months. So if your exahash hasn't doubled, you're mining less Bitcoin today than you were a year ago. That's if your exahash hasn't doubled. So, that's just to keep up with that. And now we're 2 months away from the halving where you're going to get that situation again. So there's massive pressure on these companies to grow and keep up. Now, is there a hope that maybe the global hash rate will pull back a little bit after the halving? I think that it will for a short period of time. But if you look back in history, that window is very short. Within a few months, the difficulty level is right back to where it was and beyond after the halving. So, you get a very small reprieve and there may be a little pullback. But if you look at the plans, what leads us to believe that the global hash rate is going to go down when I'm going to go back to this chart. So let me go back here. So you got Marathon, they said they have 7 exahash pending coming online imminently. You've got Core Scientific, not so much. Riot's planning on going from 12 to 28 by the end of the year. Cleanspark's planning on going from 10 to 20. They're already at 14. They're planning on going to 20 shortly, and then 30, and then 38, and then 50. You've got Bitfarms at 6.5, planning to get to 12 in short order, and then 17. Iris Energy already has purchase orders and deliveries on the way to get from 6 to 10. Hive is going to get from 3.8 to about 5.5 or 6. TeraWolf has big growth plans. Cypher's announced big growth plans. I don't know if did I say Riot? I mean, Riot's announced big growth plans to get to from 12 exahash to 38 exahash. So, I mean, we see a lot of machines about to come online. And remember, these machines that are coming online, the machines that are coming offline, a lot of those are a third or a quarter or less the capacity of these new machines coming online. So I think I would tell you, I would count on, in my opinion, if, let's say the halving, for the sake of argument, is on April 15th. It's going to be, maybe it's April 18th, whatever. So I think I would say by June 15th or by June 30th at the latest, the difficulty level will be higher than it was at the halving. It may dip in the middle. A bunch of machines will come offline because they will, they will be losing money big time on those machines. But the ones that come online after that, I don't think you're going to get this big dip. So all of this was to point out that the only way for these companies to get where they're going is to sell shares of stock, right? And there's only 3 ways for companies to raise money. We all know debt is not an option for these companies, and I don't want them borrowing money because all they get is very short-term money at very high interest rates, and that's when they were getting any money at all. So that's not a good plan for them, right? They can generate a certain amount from operations, but not enough to grow their company, not enough to double, triple, quadruple their size. So all that leaves is growth. And I would tell you that look at the 10 biggest companies in the world. They all have billions and billions of shares outstanding. Do you think they IPO'd with 3 billion shares? No, they diluted themselves 100 times to get from point A to the biggest company in the world. Now, at some point when they're mature, they won't have to dilute because they will be profitable enough to pay their way forward. And then the very mature companies actually will do the opposite. They'll start to buy their stock back. But these companies are in their infancy. So, I would not expect any dividends or buybacks for, the next 2 full cycles, in my opinion. Papa D, thanks for the super chat. George announced big growth plans on his... Jeez.
In his pants. Hey now.
I walked
You've
right
been
into
talking to
that
Sue
one.
again? You've been talking to Sue again?
Oh. Why? Why?
I don't know you, Papa D, but I respect you, man. This is not good, Tom. Bitcoin is looking weak.
Well, I mean,
it's a full moon tomorrow, guys, just so you know.
And I should get off of this 15-minute chart. I mean, if you look at this 1-day chart, and I will say, let's take a moment and look, and then I'm going to get back to this dilution thing because there is more to talk about with this. Because I really think this is, if I would say what is the most misunderstood thing in all of investing, it could very well be stock dilution, in my opinion. And some of you may completely disagree with me, and that is fair. All right. What I wanted to show you guys is, it does look like this on the MACD on the 1-day time frame for Bitcoin is if this holds, and we're a couple hours away from a daily candle close, just less than 2 hours. At the moment, this is red. So I'll zoom in a little bit. It's just so barely red you can hardly see, but we're about to have a bearish crossover on the MACD on the 1-day time frame. I will tell you, the last couple of times this happened, we really didn't get a big pullback in Bitcoin. If you look right here, right, we had on this day, we had a bearish crossover. Typically, you would think that means, there's more selling pressure than buying pressure. You're going to have a pullback. We actually had a little run up and some sideways consolidation all through the entire time that we were in the red here. So that's what I'm saying. The buying pressure has been so strong that we're even like just going sideways is about as bearish as we've been in 6 months. So other than this very quick move that we had from the day the spot ETFs were announced, we had a big run up. This was really just a 1-hour candle that ran up to 49,000. And then over the next, week and a half, we pulled back almost 22% and then immediately reversed back on track. So super short period of time. And that was this bearish crossover. That day, the next day, we had a bearish crossover. And that's the last time. So we did have a 20% pullback in this time, but it was a very short period of time and it immediately reversed itself. So I would say this type of price action is what I would, if I think this is the worst we should expect. Now, obviously, who knows? This is cryptocurrency. So, you can get violent moves at any time. But I still think even if we have a little consolidation, even if we pull back, maybe we retest this line at 48,000. There's nothing at all that would be scary about
48?
that.
What's below 48?
I mean,
next one?
For me, the next one is at 44,000. So if we were to measure from where
that would be the lowest.
Right, that'd be about a 13% move. If we go down to this line here, that would be pretty close to your 20% move. So, and that's at around 41,200. So honestly, I don't even think we're going to do, I don't think we're going back to 44 or 41, but I don't know. And I won't be shocked if that happens. I'm not expecting it. There's too much buying pressure coming. This Genesis $1.6 billion notwithstanding, if you look at this flow from these ETFs, right, we had a 1-day scare, and now here we are back to $250,000 flowing into the ETFs.
Tom, my problem is I missed 6-figure days, okay?
We got spoiled. We had a run. We had
Those were fun.
I know. They can't all be. If too many of those days in a row, and you do get a violent drop to the downside. So if we look at the RSI also, we crossed 70 on February 9th. Today's February 23rd. It looks like we crossed back under, yesterday. So we had a nice run above this, and we very well could, this could turn right back. This could go bounce off of 50. And maybe that pulls us back to 48,000 before we go back up. Or we could turn back around and hang out up here. We did right here for a long time.
Just so you know, I'm putting my wallet out here in case anybody wants to give me any Bitcoin. I'm always accepting. There's my wallet.
That's very generous of you, George. Much appreciated.
See if you can hack it. Many have tried before.
Anybody who would be so kind, if you could smash the like button, it would be much appreciated.
Let's see if anybody sends me any. That'd be interesting. If you do, let me know in Discord.
Yeah, how are they going to prove it's them?
Um, if they say it's them and the money
You'll
shows
believe
up,
them.
I'll believe them.
So the other thing, I'll go to the 15-minute because we can show this a little bit more. We just crossed under. So right here, as you guys know, the gold line, this is where Bitcoin was when the U.S. equity markets closed yesterday. So yes, we had a pullback from there, but
No, crypto golfers, I send you 2, you're sending me back 3. That's what you're supposed to tell me.
that's right. That's going to entice them. So we're down about 2% from there. But I left this line on here and I turned it into a dotted line. This was just the day before. So this is where Bitcoin was when the equity markets closed on Wednesday of this week. So all we did today is give back what we got yesterday. So we're right back where we started. Now, I know the Bitcoin miners gave back more than that. So I will tell you, I didn't buy anything. I don't believe I bought anything this entire week. So, that's maybe indicative of the market. This is not for me. I've been buying dollar cost averaging in for a long time, as have I know a lot of you guys. And, maybe there's a little bit of a lull. There's not as much. I don't feel the need to. I've dollar cost averaged in at all these prices and mostly at much lower prices for a long time. So for taking a week off, maybe I'm not alone here. And that's a little bit of what's driving us sideways. There's some buyer exhaustion, but it's not like you see massive sell pressure. It's not like, the bears have not moved in and taken over yet.
Well, we're 2% down for the week, Tom.
Papa D said, I think Bitcoin is dropping. Thanks for the super chat, by the way. I think Bitcoin is dropping to 30K after the halving. There's your poll, George. Will Bitcoin drop to 30K after the halving? Will Bitcoin drop to, what's the lowest number we're going to see after the halving?
Okay, that's a good one.
And give them some options.
Number
30 can be one of the options.
All right, all right, all right.
So I see some people in the comments and Sebastian saying DCA is the way. So I agree. I completely agree with that. I mean, I don't play the guessing game. And, I think probably between Sebastian and myself, there's not a lot of people that spend a lot more time looking at this stuff than we do. And still, we're dollar cost averaging in. So, that's how I do it. That's how I think you win at this in the long frame.
All right.
But, listen, if you're day trading or swing trading, I know there's money to be made that way. That's not what I do. Let's look at a couple of things. I want to just get off base. Well, you want to talk about Riot for a second? Because there's another issue that I have with Riot. We talked about the fact that, well, listen, I mean, it is what it is. We talked about the fact that they're not quite as efficient as their peers. There is one other thing, and I put a little chart together. Data center hosting, right? So they still host machines, and they talked about, and they've been talking about this for now, what I think is a better part of a year now. These are some legacy hosting agreements, some of which they've canceled. And Jason has said he expects hosting to be a profit center. He expects this to be profitable. But here we are. In 2021, they lost $8.5 million the year. So I've gone from the financial statements. This is the revenue for data center hosting. This is the cost of revenue. So that's their energy cost, essentially. This does not include their energy credits. So they do another reconciliation saying, there's some mitigating factor with the energy credits. Forget the energy credits for now. Just dollar for dollar. 2 years ago, they lost $8.5 million on this. In 2022, they lost $25 million on this. And now in the year we just finished, they lost just under $70 million hosting.
That's crazy.
It doesn't make any sense to me. I can't make sense of it.
How do you lose $70 million doing anything?
I don't understand how they lose this much. And why is it accelerating to the downside? I mean, what agreement? They said, well, they have bad agreements. Well, keeps going up and up and up. I don't know what are these agreements? And more importantly, when do they end? When do they end? Because clearly,
Somebody needs to be talking to them about that.
I'm going to just read these super chats, and then I do want to get back to this and finish this conversation. Kevin K, thanks for the super chat. You guys have a few beers and do a St. Patrick's Day special. Is St. Patrick's Day coming up? Oh, yeah, it is. We're less than a month away. Well, we might, if there's demand, we can come on and do a live stream on St. Patrick's Day. Papa D said, why does your music keep coming on like you're getting ready to go to commercial break? I think that there's a couple of things. If somebody joins a member, if somebody does a super chat, if a member leaves a special comment, it does some kind of sound effect. So apologies for whatever is happening right now. So that's what's going on there.
Parasites that never leave.
So I broke this out to the 3 months.
Did they talk about it? Did they talk about it at all?
I have not looked at. So last night is when I did this, and at that time they had not yet put out their, SEC filing. They don't specifically address this to my knowledge now. I don't think they did a conference call, an earnings call. Let me know in the comments if they have done that. This was frustrating to me. Most of the other ones, a week or weeks in advance, they let you know, here's the day we're going to do our reporting. Here's where and when our earnings call is. And, that's an important part of this. Sometimes they don't even have an earnings call. So, that's something else I think they can improve on. Communication with their investors. And then, so I pulled this out just by looking at the 9 months versus the 12 months to see, is this getting any better? But in the quarter that just ended, they lost almost $18 million on hosting. Again, not including their energy credits. So this does not seem to be getting better. This was a little better than the third quarter. So this was the fourth quarter. But still, I mean, I don't know where the end is. And that would be my question. And my bigger question is with options on 100 exahash of Bitcoin miners, why host anything at all? So I don't know. I know they keep saying these are legacy agreements that, this was a part of when they bought the facility itself. And, apparently these continue to linger, but for how much longer? Just tell us. Well, we got 3 more years of this. Okay, then I don't need to keep, holding my breath every quarter to see, is this the quarter this gets better? Just let me know. You know what? This is a part of our deal. We're still going to be profitable, make money, win, but just count on the fact, we're going to lose another $50-60 million a year on hosting because, that's how we were able to buy the facility. And I don't know that that's the case. That might be false. Maybe, they're 3 months away from all these.
Well, can't you get into the numbers and figure it out or no?
They don't disclose these specific agreements. So without seeing the underlying agreements,
right, I understand.
They would have to, they would have to tell us the what's and the whens, and I haven't heard that. So it's been a long time since Jason did come on the channel one time. We did talk about this, and he said these will end and this will be a profit center. But, I guess when?
When the company goes out of business. He just didn't say who it would be a profit center for.
Yeah, that's right.
It's okay. You just assume he meant stockholders.
I will tell you, for all my complaining right now, I think Riot's going to be one of the big winners. I really do. So I know I just went through 2 big things.
Why? But tell me why you think that.
That's a good question, George.
I mean, because you keep saying that stuff. $70 million. I mean, that's just insane to me. Or maybe that's just no money.
Here is why. Number 1, current assets, $1 billion. Current liabilities, $121 million.
Then why are they raising money right now?
They're raising money because you'll see $215 million they have so $704 million in property and equipment. That is net of depreciation. They must have some hyper accelerated depreciation schedules because, like I said, they had $252 million of depreciation this year, which was 2.5 times CleanSpark. And CleanSpark has, about 80% of the net equipment, but just a small fraction of it. And there's a way that makes sense. So, because Riot's had their equipment for longer and they're a little more mature, but it just does seem like an overwhelming amount of depreciation. But in addition to that, $215 million in deposits. They've probably had to continue to buy down on these machines. They're also building a 1 gigawatt facility. So, with all that said, they're raising that money. If you look at their total liabilities, they only have $163 million in total liabilities. Now, what is at the expense of this is the stock dilution, right? So the way you get to these numbers is by diluting your stock. So you need, what they need to show us is growth. They need growth in their exahash. They need growth in the number of Bitcoin they mine. They need to keep their margins. So if you look, and this gets a little funky because they have Bitcoin mining, data center hosting, and engineering. To me, engineering is just about a wash. I don't care about it. They say it helps their business, and there's some synergies there internally. So fine, it's a tiny profit center. The data center hosting we talked about, that's upside down in a big way. But the Bitcoin mining, almost $189 million in revenue. $96 million in costs. So, that's a significant amount of gross profit. $100 million in overhead. So it's still not enough to pay for their overhead. $252 million in depreciation. Now, they got their one-time only big windfall, $184 million change in fair value of Bitcoin. So this was their change in accounting method. So now the Bitcoin, this $1 billion now reflects Bitcoin at its fair market value at December 31st. Now, Bitcoin is up since then. So if that trend continues, then each quarter for the 7,000 Bitcoin that they have, they're going to get to recognize that incremental increase for each one of those Bitcoin. Conversely, if Bitcoin goes down, the opposite's true. But I think we're at a part of a cycle where, for the next, I would hope the next 6 quarters anyway, we see Bitcoin overall heading much, much higher, which is why these companies are hodling, as fast and as furiously as they can. So I think they'll have good gross profit margins. Then you'll see they got $71 million in power curtailment credits. So this helps reduce their overall net energy cost. And so we'll see how these numbers go. My big thing is, I will tell you, one of the things that I'm counting on, if it doesn't happen, then I'm just going to be wrong. I mean, that's the reality.
I'm just going to be wrong.
I'm counting on the fact that Riot is going to move somewhere into the middle of the pack on efficiency. They're going to get more competitive with their peers. I am not counting on them getting to the front of the pack. I don't even care if they get to the middle of the pack. They just need to be competitive. Right now, they're not even competitive. If they get to the point, if they're at 28 exahash on December 31st, 2024, which is their stated plan, and they're competitive with their peers on efficiency, then I think this company is going to be one of the big winners.
What's their efficiency right now, Tom?
In January, it was, simple calculation, 48 Bitcoin per exahash versus, their peers were between 56 and 61. So that's a significant difference as a percentage. And again, I don't think they need to be the leader.
So have they ever been a good exahash return?
Not for the last, year and a half anyway. They've been at or near the bottom of this list almost every single month. Now, certain months, it's not a fair comparison because, on a month where they get a $31 million energy credit, we know they turned their machines off. That's how they got $31 million. So, okay, in that month, you lag behind your peers. But in this month of January, I don't think they had, very little energy credits and curtailment that should have been not too different than any of their peers that all experienced curtailment in the month of January. Darren S. said, Bitcoin having April 17th. NYCB reports April 19th. Within 5 days, NYCB will be taken down. Fed decision April 30th. I'm loading on any backdated puts on NYCB. And if if these regional banks, and
That's a regional bank?
what am I, NY, sorry, I did it wrong. This is the bank everybody at the moment is the most concerned about. And if I go out on the 1 month, you'll see they fell off a cliff here on January 30th. And so, whether it's this bank or there's, dozens of these regional banks that, if these start to have stress on them, that's going to put the Fed in a very different situation. And it's one of several reasons why I do believe we are going to get rate cuts a lot faster than the market is pricing in right now. And I still think we're going to get the 4 or 5 rate cuts in 2024 that we expected at the beginning of this year. So go ahead, George.
Couldn't they do like a change of requirement for liquidity? Or dump some cash on them?
Could they bail them out?
Yeah. I remember this well with Barack Obama having to say, you will take this money. Remember that whole big thing?
Here's the
in
thing.
2008?
Yes, but that was not with these regional banks. And I just don't think they're going to bail out the regional banks. Now, if it turns into 50 of them, then you can count on the fact that they're going to have to step in and do something. They can't let this spiral out of control. But, last year we had, I think, 3 of the 4 largest bank failures in history, but they were still all medium-sized regional banks, and they did let them fail. So the depositors didn't lose any money. So that's the backstop I think you're going to see.
They didn't really let them fail.
Well, they're ceased to exist. So
yeah, but they made good on every single deposit that people had in there. Did you hear what they did?
What?
So they're supposed to be insured up to $250,000, right?
FDIC insured up to $250,000.
Right. Well, the bank stepped in. The federal government stepped in and said, your money is good.
They did.
Don't worry about it.
They did, and to the extent,
if you had a $2 billion in there, you got all $2 billion back.
So that's the backstop that I think is much more likely.
That bothers me.
Well,
but then again, I didn't have $2 billion sitting in their bank.
It's a double-edged sword because
it's a double. Go ahead, say it.
You don't want, as soon as people start depositing money into a U.S. bank account and not getting it back, we're in a different world. And so I do think that's a better backstop.
What's the sense of having an FDIC saying it's $250,000 if you don't know the risks?
I think that one of the reasons that they do that is most people will spread and try to adhere to that. Not everybody. And there's companies that have too much money. I mean, you cannot expect Google to have all their accounts under, or Microsoft or Apple that has $100 billion. What do they get? Their accounts are not going to be under $250,000, right? They would have to have tens of thousands of bank accounts to make that happen. Now, they're much more likely to have money in the much, much bigger. They're not going to put that amount of money in regional banks. So to your point, maybe you shouldn't be putting $2-3 billion in a regional bank, right? You should be doing a better job mitigating your own risk. So I understand. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I understand their willingness to backstop people's money in the bank versus backstopping the bank itself and, giving them the cash to keep going.
You know the game. The game is how you play it.
Listen, these bank failures are a potential problem
All it did was add more debt that we owe.
Well, it either adds to the debt that you owe or new money is printed or, I mean, listen,
The
if you
M1,
think
M2,
that's
M3. I understand.
a lot more than
Nobody
that
asked
was done.
me.
You mentioned 2008, right? I mean, the Fed opened the window and just said everybody, sky's the limit. And if they didn't do that, for those of you old enough to remember, we were 1 or 2 days away from all banks in the US failing, right? Bank of America, Citibank, all these they were, they
Are
got
you talking
down.
about 2008?
Yeah, they were penny stocks, right? They were trading at $1, $2, $3, $4, $5.
Well,
So
looking back, Tom, I almost wish it would have.
I, I don't know what to say to that. That I
I
guess it was
know.
take the pain then, or take the pain someday in the
Well,
future,
I mean,
or
look at what's happened today. I mean, look at how bad it's gone from that day on forward.
that's right, right.
We
Our
have
debt was
never
tiny
recovered.
then compared to what it is
Right,
right
we
now.
have not recovered from that, by the way. All we've been doing is kicking the can down the road.
I agree, and I think even at that time we had been kicking the can down the road for enough period of time. That's what led to that. The loosening of policies, the no income verification loans, all that was a reaction to some earlier
Right.
events that occurred that, we wanted to, get money into the economy. So you're right. This is 20, 30 or more years of policies that, you could argue are not going well. How about that?
I won't digress anymore.
Is
I
somebody
just want my Bitcoin to go up, baby. It's just
well,
sitting there, 50,884. And by the way, the only Bitcoin price I really look at now is on Coinbase.
and that's the trading view chart that I look at is Coinbase. So
I mean, it's almost to the point where nothing really else matters.
I
You know what I
think
mean?
probably a lot of people look at the Binance. That's
I don't even like Binance, those criminals.
that's the internationally they're the 800-pound
Cri-
gorilla or whatever it is.
They're the criminals.
Gorilla. They're the
Have
monsters. But
have you read anything regarding that? Speaking of Binance, Tom, have you followed any of what was happening?
no, but I did see the BNB was running.
It's real interesting. You should see if you can get deep into BNB because it's pretty interesting what they've been doing in this whole crypto world.
You want to give us a topic sentence or
Criminal.
oh my.
I mean, everybody knows. Anybody that's in crypto should know this. That this CZ was a criminal. I mean, just pump and dump schemes all over the place.
Well, I guess technically
It's
he's
just
literally a
deeper.
criminal, right? Didn't he get
Huh? Yeah, I mean, he's arrested. You know,
the lowest number of Bitcoin pricing after the halving?
where were we? How much? Wow, that's all over the place.
45 to 50K is in first place. 45 or lower, 18%. 55 plus 16%. So this is very split. Very split. But it's skewing more towards, that 45 to $55,000 range.
Well,
Which
how
is
long would
entirely
it
possible.
take? How long would it take to wreck the Bitcoin miners if they brought the price of Bitcoin down after the halving? How long would it take? A week, 2 weeks, a month? Let's say they brought it down to $38,000.
I mean, most of it depends on the Bitcoin miner. If you're talking about the ones that we normally talk about, Marathon, Riot, CleanSpark, Bitfarms, particularly, there is no number that's going to wreck Marathon and Riot. Their balance sheets
Okay.
are just too strong. So if Bitcoin got down to, for some unforeseeable reason, if it hung out, if it got down to 15,000 for a couple of months, Marathon and Riot have a very long cash runway. Now, I'm not saying they'd be happy. That'd be devastating, and the price of these stocks would get absolutely decimated. But the bigger companies wouldn't go out of business. The bottom half of my list, right? It's the list.
I'm ending the poll. If anybody has any ideas, throw it up.
Right? If you look at like companies like Mawson and Gree and DigiHost and Any and Stronghold, Argo Blockchain, DMG, these are very small market cap companies. And even though some of them have decent balance sheets, they don't have the type of balance sheet to withstand an extended period of time after the halving of Bitcoin having a gigantic dip like you're talking about. So, those would be the ones that are in the most danger. And that's why I talk about, that's why these companies are doing, the bigger companies that are diluting their stocks but growing their exahash rate have greatly reduced their risk of having a problem. So there's, that risk number gets lower and lower for them. Now, you might argue the reward is less than maybe it would have been, but I think if they're putting their money to use and if they stick to their plan and do what they said they were going to do, then, I think these companies that have the biggest growth plans, and, they got most of these companies got very, very good prices on the machines this time around versus the last time around. So, right, they're paying around $14, $15, $16 a terahash. They were paying double, triple, sometimes quadruple that prior to the last, peak of the bull market when these gigantic orders for machines were put in the last time around. I will tell you a company that I think is very quietly doing a better job than I expected. Let me see if I have this open. Hive. So this came out, I guess, yesterday. Hive announces purchase of 1,000 new energy efficient Bitmain S21. So it's not necessarily these 1,000. They've had a series of these, but I just want to get to one part of this. Hive is continuing its strategic preparation for the Bitcoin halving event, expected to occur in late April. Rather than expanding our footprint at this time, we are upgrading our fleet with the most efficient miners available, which will in turn lower our average cost to produce a Bitcoin. By upgrading our existing ASICs in our inventory to S21s, we will increase our target exahash rate from 5.3 at 24 joules by the end of 2024 to 5.5 exahash. So this is a dramatic reduction in their joules per terahash. They're basically updating the majority of their fleet. So this was very important. And they have a decent balance sheet. They've got a nice hodl. They're over 2,000 Bitcoin on their balance sheet now. Here it says Hive now has 2,070 Bitcoin on the balance sheet. So this company is not necessarily a juggernaut, but they've made a lot of small moves over the course of the last 6 or 8 months, and these moves are starting to add up. So yes, they're going to get to 5.5 exahash. That does not put them in league with, Marathon and CleanSpark and Riot and Core Scientific and, even, Bitfarms and Iris Energy have very big growth plans. But they did shore up their balance sheet and at the same time replace their fleet. So that, they had a lot of these companies had very aging fleets, particularly companies like Hive that have been around a lot longer than some of these brand new companies, right? Some of these companies, the XPs were the latest, that was the machine that existed when the company started. So their fleet is not aged like this. So I think Hive's made a lot of good moves to do the right thing. They're not necessarily in my top 5, but I like what they're doing. And they've been I think nobody's really talking about these guys. I think they've been pretty quiet about it.
Sorry, we're having our conversation over here.
Because you're having your own conversation.
Were you talking, Tom? Sorry. I'm just teasing you.
Did you say something? All right, let's switch gears for a minute. 1 minute, because I do want to go through, if I can find it. All right, NVIDIA. This chart was put out by Bloomberg. Top 10 biggest single day market cap gains. Yesterday, NVIDIA's market cap went up $277 billion in one day. That destroyed the all-time record, which, by the way, was set just 20 days ago by Facebook or Meta at $196 million in one day. The previous all-time record was Apple. You're going to see all these top 10. These top 10, 4 of them are Apple, 2 of them are NVIDIA, 2 of them are Microsoft, 1 is Amazon, and one is Facebook or Meta. So it's five companies have the top 10, and these are staggering numbers. Microsoft's about to get pushed off of this list. This is just in the month of February 2024. You have the 2 biggest market cap jumps in the history of the stock market, and this last one, this was not a small incremental gain. This absolutely destroyed the previous all-time record. NVIDIA is now, I thought it would happen today. They're now the 3rd largest company in the US. If I go global, they're the 4th largest. And they're just about to pass Saudi Aramco. They have passed everybody. I mean, they were not, this is a meteoric rise in market cap. And the same thing can be said for Meta. These 2 companies have grown. They've added more market cap in a 15-month window. This is the number 1 and 2 additional market cap added to a company in history. Right here in this last 15-month window of time. So, and I will tell you, I'm invested in neither of them. So there you go. I hope some of you guys were in these and caught these historic runs. If you had invested $10,000 in NVIDIA 10 years ago, now 10 years is a long time, but not that long in terms of investing, it would be worth over $2 million right now.
Oh, wow, really?
So that's a $10,000 to $2 million in 10 years. You just don't see that. And the last year and a half, was a big, gigantic piece of that. Like, they're still 4th in the world right now, but they're within, I thought it would be today, but it wasn't. They're within days of being 3rd in the world. They're 3rd in the US. And, I don't know that they'll catch Apple and Microsoft. Maybe. These 2 have been number 1 and 2 for a very long time now, but,
what
Exxon and IBM were number 1 and 2 for a decade. Things don't last forever.
What you have in front of you is what scares me.
Just the concentration of money.
Yep.
In a very small list of
Yep.
stocks. Right. I mean, these numbers are just staggering.
Yep. I mean, what does that make up? 80% of the value?
It's the
insane.
total market cap. This is saying worldwide, the market cap's $101 trillion. Let's see if I go back. So in the US, that's $52 trillion, but you've got, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, about 15, 16, 17 trillion of that in the top 10 companies. Out of just 52 trillion. So that's.
And then how many private companies are there? I can think of a couple that would, rival them.
I don't know a private company that scales at this level. These numbers are staggering.
I'll talk off air.
Yeah, I mean,
there's 2 that I know of.
That are trillion-dollar market cap companies?
They're private. Their revenues are up there, yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't know.
They're conglomerates.
Not for sharing.
Not for sharing. Let's see if anybody else knows.
So let's see. It looks like Bitcoin is got 50,700, but I'm going to zoom out because it does look like Bitcoin's dropping, but I will, until we break out, I'm going to go to the 1 day. Let's just zoom up. Zoom in. And
Bob's
this could
still
happen.
drinking, guys, just so you know.
This could happen over the weekend, but for the moment, For the moment, we have a line at somewhere around 50,600. If you go back to February 14th, so, since then, we touched this on February 17th. We didn't quite get there on February 20th. We touched this again on February 21st, and now we're there right now today. So we have tested this line. This is a very short-term line of support, so I won't be surprised to see this break over the weekend, but it has been
49.5.
holding up. You're calling for 49.5?
No, but that's like the last real breakout number.
If we look this day, that's right. We had a little bit down here at 49.7 for a couple days, so we'll see. But I mean, this is not.
Is it going to be a pump or a dump, Miner Doc? You think it's going to be a pump? Let's see. That's a good poll. With the full moon, is it going to be a pump or a dump?
It's over the weekend, so what are they going to do on the weekend?
I would pump it personally.
That more often than not, we get positive price action on the weekend that gets erased by the time the equity markets open Monday morning. That was a trend. Hasn't been so much lately, but we did see an awful lot of that. Oh, here we go. Here's one for you, George. Bitcoin's fair value is 0. And the latest boom will spark massive collateral damage. This from the ECB, and let's just talk about this for a second. So, the European Central Bank. And then I'm going to show you another article that responds to this. The cryptocurrency market may be feeling like it's just got a stamp of approval to go mainstream with the debut of the spot Bitcoin ETFs in the US, but the European Central Bank says don't be fooled. Bitcoin is still a long con. I mean, this is how negative, these central agencies are, whether it be the European Central Bank, whether it be the SEC, who, as harsh as this is, I would venture to say, what Gary Gensler has said is maybe even worse than this. Analysts at the EBC described last month's approval of the Bitcoin ETF as, I don't even think this is the right expression, the naked emperor's new clothes.
I guess they're talking about Charles leaving. We're $140 away from the low of the day for Bitcoin, by the way.
In a blog post on Thursday, reiterating their long-standing view that the cryptocurrency has no real value and is likely the cause of more problems than it solves. These problems include the usual suspects, environmental damage, the redistribution of wealth to the detriment of those who may have less understanding of the market. AKA you poor dummies, you poor retail idiots, is what they're saying to us. Sorry, but that's what they're saying. I didn't say it. This is how condescending, right? So, okay, so I don't even need to do the poll. Who here thinks Bitcoin's going to 0? Who anywhere thinks that Bitcoin's going to 0? Then, quote, for disciples, the formal approval confirms that Bitcoin investments are safe and the preceding rally is proof of an unstoppable triumph. We disagree with both claims and reiterate that the fair value of Bitcoin is still 0. This from the European Central Bank. So, let me see if I kept this open. Okay, so this is an article on CoinDesk that came out, I think, yesterday. The European Central Bank is either lying about Bitcoin or lying to itself. And that's the reality. And which one do you think it is? I'd like to do that poll. Do you think that the ECU really thinks that Bitcoin's going to 0? Or are they lying about Bitcoin, or are they lying to themselves? This is not some small agency, right? This is not some little trading desk that put out a new price target. right? This is the European Central Bank is saying Bitcoin is worth 0. So if you want to know if there's FUD still out there, George, you have to look no
Yep.
further than, one of the world's largest agencies, if you will, saying that Bitcoin's worth 0. And like I said, that's a little bit nicer than what Gary Gensler has to say about it. Head of the SEC. Just my
I
opinion.
can't believe the dump Solano just took.
Take a look. By the way, the Qs, so the NASDAQ is at an all-time high. Right? This was its previous all-time high in November of 2021, much like Bitcoin, much like a lot of things, peaked in November of 2021. We've taken that out, right? Actually, 2 days ago, it got a little higher than this, but it's sitting right here. It candlewicked to a new all-time high today. All-time high. So the NASDAQ's at an all-time high. By the way, the S&P is at an all-time high. So the market is on fire. Now, obviously, a part of that, to George's point, is this concentration of Microsoft, Apple, NVIDIA, Amazon, Google, Facebook. These guys are such a gigantic portion of the NASDAQ and the S&P that, to some extent, as they go, so goes those two indexes. But with all of this said, and with everything at its new all-time high, you've got the negative news that, everybody now has moved their expectation out that the Fed is not going to lower rates in March, maybe not even in May. Even with that in mind, even with still $6 trillion in money markets on the sidelines, the markets are at an all-time high. So I don't think this run is over, for the markets. And I think we're only just getting started for Bitcoin. So those two will not have the same trajectory, obviously, right? Even if the markets continue to run, 15, 20% is a great year for the markets. I think you're going to see much, much bigger moves than that in Bitcoin. A lot of people are extremely enthusiastic about Ethereum. Maybe, George, that could be a poll. Who's going to have a better year, Bitcoin or Ethereum? Because people are beating the Ethereum drum pretty loud right now.
And just, if it's going to 0 and you want to donate some of your Bitcoin, the wallet's up there.
Get rid of it before it goes to 0. That's right.
Yeah, if you want to. Feel good. I mean, it's going to 0 anyways. And then I will do that here. I'm going to give this poll a few more minutes before I close it. 63% believe it will go up. 37% believe it will go down tomorrow. It's going to do something. I think that's when we're going to see some activity.
I'm almost
shaking us out today.
I'm almost hoping, and I always say I never hope this. What happened?
Oh, still going down. 50,000. It hit 56. That's 50,712.
Our low on the day, according to this, which is the Coinbase chart, is 50,619
and 81 cents.
And the other day it was 50,628, so we're $9 lower than that. And then the other day before that, it was 50,642. So virtually the same number on these 3 days in the last week. Will we break out to the downside? And then I would say if it does break out to the downside, we could see this run down to 48.
No one likes this poll. No one's voting. Only 42 votes. Guess nobody really knows. You could be right or wrong.
My contention is if we're going to have a pullback, and it has been forever without a pullback, other than, we had a 22% pullback in 7 or 8 days. That was kind of just a fake out. But if we're going to have a pullback, I'm almost of the opinion, let's just get it out of the way. Let's get it out of the way. Let's reset the daily RSI, which in my opinion, it just needs to get down, down to 50-ish. We have a potential bearish crossover on the MACD in the making. If this holds for just one more hour, then we will have, we will be red on the histogram today. If we're
Bob's still drinking, guys. Didn't come out to play yet.
If we're gonna do it, it can't hurt on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then maybe a couple of days of pain at the beginning of the week, and then maybe we turn around.
We just is that true? 50,531. I got 50,677, but every exchange is different.
That's right. Where there are minor differences between exchanges, so everyone's going to come up with a little bit different number depending on what you're looking at. Kevin K, I just haven't noticed, said Solana can very well overtake Ethereum.
I think so too. Ending the poll in 1 minute.
So that goes to our question: what's going to have a better year, Bitcoin or Ethereum? Because you've got Kevin K saying he thinks Solana maybe is going to have a better year than both of them. Solana has, just to put it in perspective, an awful lot of ground to catch up. I'm going to go to that list if I can find it. So Bitcoin still is hanging on to this $1 trillion mark. Ethereum's at $354 billion. Solana's at $44 billion. So, Ethereum's still somewhere on the magnitude of 8 times the size of Solana. That doesn't mean that they can't flip, but that's certainly not going to happen overnight. I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think anybody's expecting a 1 or 2,000% move in Solana in the short term. But if you're talking about the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, or who's going to win in the end, is Solana going to be bigger than Ethereum? I don't know. I know that Solana, the last year, Solana's been the deal. Everybody's been all about Solana.
Ms. Fromm had an interesting comment. Can you read that as I do this poll?
Yes. Is it recent?
Yeah, 4 or 5 up. Joanne Fromm. Seems like there's a football player with that last name.
All right, Joanne, welcome to the stream. Hello, so sorry if I missed this. Has anyone discussed if the new accounting rules will impact Mara for their earnings on Wednesday? My understanding is that this is why CleanSpark benefited. So I will tell you, CleanSpark implemented the new generally accepted accounting principles relating to the accounting for Bitcoin. They picked up around, I think it was $31 million. If I got that wrong, let me know. That's just off the top of my head. We just had Riot put out their information yesterday and then their stuff today. $184 million pickup for Riot. Marathon's one-time gain is going to dwarf both of those numbers. So it should be, and I don't know without looking, but I'm going to guess it's going to be, at least $350 million that they're going to get to pick up. And I expect, obviously, they will implement that, and that their earnings call is next Wednesday. So we're going to get Marathon's results next Wednesday. I do think they're going to get a $350 million-ish pickup from this change in accounting policy. Maybe it's more than that. I'm not sure, but it will be the biggest number by far out of all the Bitcoin miners. They have by far the most Bitcoin on their balance sheet. They've held the vast majority of it long enough that the majority of it has gotten written down to Bitcoin's Bitcoin's low from this crypto winter of 15,500. So yeah, I expect a gigantic pickup, but I do think the market has priced that in. The market knows that. That's particularly evident with a company like MicroStrategy, where you can see the market is pricing MicroStrategy based on its actual value of its Bitcoin, not its value on the balance sheet. So, it's nice to have that pickup, but I don't think that's why CleanSpark got the bump it got at all. I think that had to do with they just brought 4 exahash online. In anticipation of that, they let everybody know that was imminently happening. CleanSpark has had excellent performance. they have big growth plans and they've been real specific about that. So, and on top of all that, even with all that said, CleanSpark has just had a bigger, better run, faster for whatever reason. So they're a little bit out ahead of the field. Some of that might even out over time. Some of it, I do think CleanSpark's going to be one of the big winners. So I also think, it makes sense that they're doing better than the rest of the field. Let's go just take a look. These numbers are as of last Friday. So
when does Marathon close their books for the year?
Next Wednesday.
No. For the year?
Well, December 31st is their year end, and they will be.
Then it wouldn't show up this quarter, anyways, right? Or could it?
No,
could it show up?
Yeah, they will. I'm sure. I'm not sure, but I assume they will adopt the new accounting principles in their December 31st numbers. So, yeah, I'm thinking they're going to get I don't know, is it going to be 320 million, 380 million, whatever it is. They're going to get a gigantic multi-$100 million pickup in their net income for 2023.
Do you think that will pump them?
I don't. I don't think that is going to pump them. I think the market understands that is coming, and I feel like it's priced in. It's one of the reasons, it's the reason that these companies with the biggest stack of Bitcoin have by far, it's one of the reasons the bigger stacks of Bitcoin have bigger market caps. They're pricing in the market value of that Bitcoin. So it is nice that these companies get to adjust their books to reflect reality, right? Because it's been ridiculous that they have Bitcoin on their books for a number that's just a fraction of its actual value. Nothing, no other similar no other commodity, the equities nothing else is accounted for that. The accounting treatment has been that of an intangible asset, which has totally different accounting. And, so as a result, it's very undervalued, and no one's going to get a bigger pickup than Marathon. It's not even close, but I do think it's priced in. And I think Marathon, we're going to have to wait and see. For me, I have Marathon up. I'm looking at a couple of different things. They got up to 31 on December 27th. They got back up over 30 again on February 15th. So this $30 to $31 mark, I think that's going to be the breakout. At some point sooner than later, I think Marathon will break out of that range. I do have a box that I put down here. If by chance Bitcoin does pull back, if we get a 10 or 20% pullback in Bitcoin and Marathon revisits, they had a pretty strong line of support somewhere just under $19. And then another one going all the way back to December 1st. I say all the way back. That's not that far back. At around $14.65. So somewhere in this range, if it pops back into this box, I will buy more. I'm pretty much full on all my positions at this point. That's kind of where I'm at. But, if some of these, there's 2 or 3 where I would buy some more if it gets back into a range. And it's not unreasonable to think that it could get back here, but by no means am I counting on that happening. I'm just saying, for me personally, again, not financial advice. You guys got to do you. And again, this is not strict dollar cost averaging. If you're a strict DCA person, then every Friday or once a month or whatever you're doing, you're adding to your position. So at this point, I'm more opportunistically adding to my positions. And this is where I'm seeing, if it so happens we get back here, I will add to Marathon.
What about What about CleanSpark? Where would you get back in on CleanSpark?
There's no number at this point that I would buy CleanSpark at. And the reason for that is its run up has been so much bigger. 2 reasons. CleanSpark and Bitfarms are now, just as a function of the fact that they have gone up so much more than their peers. They were 2 of my big positions to begin with, and now they're by far my 2 biggest positions. And, I dollar cost averaged into those. We talked about this, I've been talking about CleanSpark and Bitfarms for years now. So, Bitfarms hung out around $1 for like a year and a half. So I got to dollar cost average in, endlessly into Bitfarms. CleanSpark was bouncing in the $3 handle time after time after time. I'll go to CleanSpark's chart. Right? I mean, look where they are right now. They're so far past everybody else. If you look at this range, right? This is the, this is under from 3 to $5, right? This goes all the way back to, and then, all the way back to from December of 2022 really until November of 2023. That's a year. CleanSpark was trading at some points under $2, but most of this time, between $3 and $4. So, and Bitfarms looks just like this. It was just such an extended, unbelievably long opportunity. So CleanSpark, from $1.74, right? We talk about these. Is this going to 5x? Is this going to 10x? To be fair, you have to count from the bottom. So this was just a little over a year ago. CleanSpark's already up 1,000%. So if you want to know if CleanSpark's going to 10x, they already did. Right? So I'm less likely to buy in after a 10x, even if it were to pull back. And I'm not telling you guys not to dollar cost average in. If that's what you're doing and that's your plan, like we always talk about, you work your plan, stick to your plan, unless something changes. And I do think CleanSpark's going to go to much higher numbers than this. By the same token, it's the only Bitcoin miner. This green line here, this is where CleanSpark was on November 8th,
Ouch.
2021. Right? So if you look at where CleanSpark is today versus their highs from the peak of the last bull market, this is not their all-time high. I want to be clear. They were a small cap high growth stock prior to this. They were doing microgrids. They had no revenue. They were caught in that bubble in December 2020, January 2021. This stock ran up to $40. Really, technically, yes, they were mining Bitcoin for about 30 days inside of that window. They just started their very first tiny little operation. So that was really more a part of that bubble. November of 2021 is the day I measure all these companies. These guys were at around $23. They need to take a 43% run to get to their high. To put it in perspective, Marathon, which is doing by far better than most of these companies, Marathon needs to go up almost 250% to get to its previous high. So that's how much further ahead CleanSpark is than the rest of the field. And again, I think Marathon's, closer than a lot of other companies. Most companies look a lot more like this. They need to go up 200, 300, 400%. Some of them significantly more than that. So that's why for me personally, like I executed my plan to completion on the buying portion of CleanSpark and Bitfarms. Marathon, I would be willing to buy at a certain price. And so I guess that would give you some indication. Those are three of the ones that I think are going to be winners in the long run. They're not the only three. I think a lot of these companies are going to do well, but I will always reiterate, I think there's going to be winners and losers. On last Friday's stream, I think I talked about the 6 companies that I think I'm deeply concerned about. Maybe their potential to survive at all, never mind be, a winning investment. And depending
we had
on
a new low of the day
just
a few minutes ago, but it's come back from there.
Oh, a new low of the day and a breakout below that range we just talked about. This yellow line's the line we just drew a few minutes ago, and we dipped below it.
I'm selling right 10,000 shares. Bye-bye. I did that earlier, Taryn. Once Tom said he was for it, I said I'm against it. I'm joking, Tom.
You can do the inverse Tom if you want.
Inverse Tom. Hashtag inverse Tom.
That's not financial advice. I'm not recommending that, but you're welcome to do that.
I'm just joking with you. I have to have fun.
Michael Anthony's asked me what I think about Riot's earnings. So I have not had time to fully go through their entire report. they put out a press release yesterday, which I read. Their report came out today, so I need to spend more time. Overall, I think it's pretty much, so far from what I've seen, it's pretty much what I expected. I don't think there was any shockers in there. I went through the one thing I do, the one thing we don't know anything about until they report is how was their hosting segment. Once again, that did not do well. So, I guess that was not a surprise. That has been every quarter. I would like to be pleasantly surprised one quarter and see that, turn around, but it didn't happen yet. So I will probably do next week a Riot video when I've gone all the way through their earnings and I can come up with a little bit more of a grasp on exactly what's going on there. But my initial knee-jerk reaction, I read their press release yesterday and I did a quick run through their financials right before the stream. And I didn't see any big surprises. Like Darren has pointed out, a lot of dilution. So, there's a lot of stock dilution there. I don't know that surprised me. I think we're going to see that in all of these companies. So, there was Iris Energy reported they had massive stock dilution during the quarter and the same thing after the quarter. They actually got whacked on that because I think that did surprise some people because they put out a press release that said they reached their goal, prior to the end of the year. And then there was more dilution after the end of the year than there was before the end of the year. So, and I'm not saying they wasted that money. They still have big growth plans ahead. They've just begun their growth plan journey. So I think they'll put that money to good use. But again, I think you're going to see on most of these Bitcoin miners, you're going to see a lot of stock dilution in the fourth quarter. And, if you go to the subsequent events footnote, you're going to see probably a lot more stock dilution in January and February of 2024. We'll see if there's an exception.
Tom, I need to leave. It was fun.
Well, guess what? That time snuck up on us. So
and I'll tell Bob to start buying Bitcoin here for the ETFs too.
We will check out together. So thank you, George. Thanks for...
Did you know he can buy at the bar? So sometimes what he does is get shit-faced before he starts some buys.
This is your theory.
Can you imagine? You know what's really sad is this is probably true.
We can neither confirm nor deny.
I'm joking, guys. I hope everybody had a fun afternoon.
Thank you very much, George, and thank you everybody for joining us. As always, special thanks to all of the members. On your way out, you can still help us by smashing the like button, and if you're new here or if you have not yet subscribed, you can consider subscribing to the channel if you enjoy listening to George and I talk on Fridays and watching a few videos throughout the week. So I hope everybody has a fantastic weekend.
Slipstream, you never said anything about it.
Oh, you want to go through...
Tim. Yeah, let's do that real quick before I leave.
Okay, I don't have a lot to say about this. I will tell you, I'll go to the press release, and it is my opinion. Let me find it.
What is it?
Marathon Digital Holding launches Slipstream. This came out yesterday. This is a little bit funky, and I will tell you, I think this is my personal opinion. I think that this is going to amount to next to nothing. That's my opinion. So just understand that's my premise. I didn't pay it much attention because this is an oddball thing. I don't think, from an investor's standpoint, and this press release, I think, was not really put out for investors. I think this was put out for, there's a very small potential client base, I'll call it, and that's probably not the right word, that could be potential users of this Slipstream situation. So what this is, let me find the sentence. Slipstream is a direct transaction submission service on Bitcoin, and I'll get to the point that matters. That's powered by Marathon and made possible by the company's blah, 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 blah. Slipstream is designed to streamline confirmations of large or non-standard Bitcoin transactions. With Slipstream, users can directly submit their transactions to Marathon, provided these transactions adhere to the Bitcoin protocol and this is the part that I think they're going for, and the fees associated with them are sufficient. Marathon will add these transactions to its mempool and process them accordingly. And they talk about how there's certain non-traditional and large transactions that sometimes ultimately either take a long time to get processed or never get processed. So they're offering an alternative to get some of these larger transactions processed. But again, if the fee associated is sufficient. So I think this is a bit of a money grab. I think there's going to be a small audience for this. I will tell you,
off exchange verifications is what it is.
Right, they're going to do something in their pool that, maybe, you're not going to be able to get into the next block, or you're going to have to wait several blocks, or sometimes these get kicked out altogether. I will tell you, you can watch, Sebastian talked about this, and I caught a few minutes of this last night. He went a little deeper into this, that there's some people, there's some Bitcoin purists and some developers that are angry with this, that, they think this is not appropriate. So if you want to learn a little bit more about that, you can check that out. But I will tell you, it's my opinion, to say that this is a minuscule piece of what Marathon is doing, I think would be an understatement. This is going to be, in my opinion, completely immaterial and insignificant. And if they get enough backlash, they may undo this at some point. So even if they do or they don't, to me, this is not the innovation that I'm looking for as a shareholder from Marathon. They are a Bitcoin mining company, and so I don't think this is a big piece of their puzzle. That's what it is. If that makes any sense. Crypto Fever, would appear, thinks that this is a big deal. So I don't think it's a big deal. I think it's a small deal, and it does look like they're getting a lot of pushback right away on it. Because remember, you're looking at a company that, is looking to get to 30, 40, 50 exahash of Bitcoin mining. Are they going to get to record a few extra transactions? Right? Is that going to be material to them? I don't know. To me, it doesn't make any sense. I don't think so. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Looks like George took this opportunity to exit stage left. So those are really my only thoughts on Slipstream. You guys can drop in the comments. And if I'm gone and you want to comment on the video and let me know some more specific thoughts regarding this or anything else, you can do that as well. And if you haven't seen, I did do a Marathon video to dig a little deeper into all things Marathon that I put out today as well. So you can check that out. So with that, we'll just take a quick look at Bitcoin. And it's funny, it looks like we candle wicked down below this, 1 week line of support. We've run, for the time being, we've run back above it. We'll see what happens. So once again, everybody have a fantastic weekend. Thank you so much for joining. And I will be putting my weekly update out over the weekend, updating all the charts. And so you can expect that over the weekend and some more stuff next week. So thanks again and have a fantastic weekend.